To heal is an act of unconditional love. We heal so our toxic patterns are not a source of discomfort to the others we care about. We heal so that we can perceive the world through the lens of our own eyes instead of the lens of our trauma. And once we see with our own eyes, we can perceive without guilt, inferiority, and apprehension, distorting our perception. And once we comprehend clearly, we can start to discern which ideas belong to us and which ideas don't. And this is why boundary setting is a very important step in personal growth. Setting boundaries indicates that you have become or are becoming sovereign and are becoming an advocate for your own happiness. And part of having this authority to advocate for what you want is knowing that what you want is worth wanting and believing in its right to exist. True confidence is believing in your own thoughts and knowing that you don't have anything to hide because your thinking is not harmful or sickening to others. And so you're free to share what you think, and you're free not to be ashamed of it either. It's difficult to imagine, but a lot of people live their lives telling other people what they think those other people want to hear. And this is because they don't believe in their own authority, right? On some level, they know they haven't earned the right to be an authority because on some level, they haven't reversed their trauma and they're still engaged in acts of self-betrayal. So when people abdicate their authority, it creates all kinds of issues for the rest of reality. First of all, they become like bots, or NPCs or agents in the matrix because their minds are compromised and are actually being used for nefarious purposes unbeknownst to them, right? So they're carrying out this dark agenda and they don't even know it. It's like the analogy I made last time where you become a 3D printer of other people's ideas. Secondly, we're deprived of the potential and the gifts of these people, right? And ultimately the timeline that person represents. If they're stuck in their trauma and their traumatic patterns, we never get the benefits of what that gifted individual or that gifted soul is bringing to the table. So reality fails to benefit from the timeline they represent. And this is important because the more inspiration the new reality receives from each of us, from each healed and connected human soul, the more incredible the new reality is going to be because it is we, right? It is we who are manifesting the new earth. And so the more people who heal their trauma, wake up, become sovereign, have an idea for the future they want to see, who start actively having that vision for the future, the faster that future is going to come about and the better that future is going to be. So collectively, we've reached a tipping point, right? A place in the manifestation process where we're all collectively wondering what's next, right? And this is why we're stuck at what's next, because we need to remind ourselves that law of attraction is literal, right? And saying or thinking or knowing or believing what's next is a question that keeps us stuck in suspended animation. Right? So when our dominant vibration is in the frequency of what's next, we don't get to see what's next because we're actually creating a state of suspended animation because of the inherent energy of what's next, right? What's next is a question. It's not what we want to see. So we're living in a question right now. And so another reason why we have to let go of our old pain and become the authority in our lives is because we can't aspire to strive for better if our thoughts and beliefs are stuck in trauma, right? We need to use our trauma to sort of propel us into a better version of life or reality by persistently focusing on what we want instead of what we don't want, right? When we're stuck in our trauma, our thoughts tend to gravitate towards what we don't want. When we've left trauma behind, we're free to focus on what we do want. And this goes without saying, it's a huge reason why people are traumatized in the first place, right? So they can focus on what they don't want and help create the hell on earth we've been living through for centuries. So instead of focusing on what's next, we might try being more intentional about the state we're in, with statements that are answers to what's next, right? Rather than focusing on the question itself. So a statement like there will be no taxes in the new earth, or on the new earth there will be more community and less individuation, right? On the new earth there will be more cooperation instead of competition, right? On the new earth, right, the justice system will be a justice system, not an injustice system. On the new earth, there will be fairness and equality and unity under the law. Anyway, you get the idea. And so now I want to switch gears and talk about what's going on right now. Right now is a very important time, astrologically speaking. And I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice if you're interested, based on what I'm perceiving in the planets and transits. And the reason why is because it just so happens that what's going on in the planets in transits, right, which affect our emotional states directly, has put us in a position now where we can choose to focus on loving ourselves, being healed, and moving forward with the reality we want to see, or sort of remaining stuck where we've always been and choosing the same reality that we've been recycled through now, however many millions of times. So the main theme surrounding this right now is Venus being retrograde in Leo. Venus is about love. Leo's about the self. Retrograde means we're reconsidering love for ourself, which is a way of saying in the past we may not have loved ourselves as radically as we should. But if anyone's going to teach you how to love yourself or lead by example in the category of self-love, it's going to be Leo, right? So Venus retrograde in Leo right now is teaching us, or we are relearning how to love ourselves with this aspect. And this aspect goes, for 40 days. I think we're 10 days into it. But this is the first time Venus has ever gone, the first time in our lifetime Venus has ever gone retrograde in Leo exclusively, meaning that the entire retrograde takes place in the sign of Leo, which means the entire retrograde is about radical self-love. And then coming up on Tuesday, there's a full moon in Aquarius, and this is an initiating event. So any sort of ceremonies around radical self-love, those would be good to sort of do on Tuesday, August 1st, which is when we're going to have the full moon. So hold intentions for our highest outcomes, commit to radical self-love. It's time to begin in earnest living the life we were all born to live versus the life we were sort of born into, and to become the person we were born to be instead of the person we were born as, right? Because we're all overcoming something. Something else, the North Node in Aries is moving from 29 down to 28, which tells us that it's time to go after the manifestations that are actually manifesting instead of the stuff that's not really working in our lives. So if you haven't received whatever you've been trying to manifest by about 2:30 Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, August 1st, it's time to let it go. She's not coming back, or he's not going to darken your doorway, or whatever it is you've been holding out for. Now, it may happen, right? I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying if it hasn't happened by 2:30 on Tuesday, it's time to pivot in the directions of manifestations that have potential for manifesting. Black Moon Lilith is trining Chiron in Aries, and that's telling us not to sort of fear failure. We may have failed at it in the past, but that doesn't mean we're going to fail at it this time. So for me, that's creative projects. For me, that's, writing a book about trauma reversal and being afraid that no one's going to read it. It doesn't matter. I have to do it, right? It's time. It's time to publish the book for me. Yeah, so don't forget, if you're interested in initiating a new phase in your life, take some action to initiate it around the full moon. Quote Snoop and be like, and last of all, I'd like to thank me. Or maybe even first of all, I'd like to thank me. That kind of thing. Take some action in the direction of self-love at or around the full moon on Tuesday. A super duper specific heads up will be at 4:44 p.m. on Tuesday, which is one of my numbers, 444. Mars is going to be trining Jupiter in Taurus at 13 degrees 46 minutes, which happens to be the ultimate manifesting aspect. So, if you do meditations, if you do get into affirmations and intention setting, like having some sort of ritual at or around that time on Tuesday would give your intentions a little added turbocharge, because again, Jupiter in Taurus is the ultimate manifesting combo. The last time Jupiter was in Taurus was 2011, and the time before that was 1999. And for me personally, these were very powerful years where a lot of new things happened and a lot of new, especially in 2011, a lot of my manifestations happened. That's actually when I started. It was 2010 actually, but 2011 is when everything just popped off and happened. Like, my manifestations were happening so fast, it could at times be a little overwhelming. And now we're back in that time again with Jupiter back in Taurus. So it is a very, very powerful time for manifestation. Yeah, and it's a great time to initiate an entirely new attitude about ourselves and planet Earth. It's all about self-worth and self-esteem. And with Venus at 26 degrees on Tuesday, this also kicks off our abilities to impact world power structures, right? And as you've heard me say a lot of times, over the years, the key to creating the world we want to see out there is to become the world we want to see inside ourselves, right? So what Venus is saying now is that we are the solutions to the world's issues, right? I know I've got issues with the world, and this channel is the beginning of some form of way to address my issues with the world. But more and more, we are becoming the solution to the Earth crises that we see. What we put in motion, in the coming days and weeks, these are going to be the solutions we've been waiting for. Like I said, right? We're stuck in a state of what's next, right? We're in suspended animation. Well, the planets and transits of this week are telling us we can now become the change we want to see. So we're the solutions to the world's issues, and the faster we get our act together, the faster we can create heaven on earth. So as the full moon approaches, be sure to write down your intentions. Be sure to begin each of your intentions with the words, I intend to, right? And this is how the reticular activation system gets involved, because I intend to is actually a goal that you set. It's a form of goal setting, and when you set goals, the reticular activation system goes out and helps you achieve those goals. So by setting intentions, you're actually setting goals. You're initiating the reticular activation system, and that will lead to a higher likelihood of success that you will manifest your intentions. And if you don't know, the reticular activation system is it's a bundle of nerves in the brain, and its purpose is to look for information that validates your beliefs. And it uses this to filter the information coming into your brain from the world around you. So the parameters you establish with your reticular activation system by setting goals or having core beliefs, your reticular activation system goes out and looks for evidence of these beliefs. And it stops us from seeing anything that doesn't support our beliefs and goals, and gives us more and more affirmation or evidence that does support our goals. So by setting intentions, we're actually activating the part of the brain that makes our dreams come true. So set your intentions, write them down, read them out loud, write them down again, memorize them if you can, make them part of your consciousness. And if you can, in the next 24 hours or so, spend some time on yourself, work on what's important to you, whatever you would consider to be acts of self-love, do those, right? For me, that's exercise, clean eating, staying hydrated, doing my meditations, and working on projects that bring meaning to my life, like creating resources like this video to help the souls of this planet whom I love so dearly. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.